Hi first grade, welcome to Storytime with Mrs. Settles. As always, feel free to get cozy, put on some PJs if you feel like it, maybe some slippers, maybe some tea or some hot chocolate, whatever you need, or just a glass of water, and it's time to cozy up and start reading our book for today. So today we are reading the book Livingstone Mouse, and Livingstone Mouse is written by Pamela, Duncan Edwards, and Henry Cole. And I'm looking at the front cover of this book and I can tell it's an illustration. And remember, an illustration is a drawing or a painting or something like that, a type of piece of art. And it shows me that this is probably a fiction book, a book that is not real. Maybe it's about things that could potentially happen in real life, but because it's art and not a real photograph, like a real picture of, say, a picture of Mrs. Settles, that would be nonfiction, a real photo of me. This is an illustration, it's a piece of art, it's a drawing from what it looks like. So this tells me this might be a fiction book. So we are going to read Livingstone Mouse. Livingstone Mouse was an explorer. He spent his days running here and there, investigating this and that. One night, Livingstone's mother said to her little mice, "You've grown too big to live in my small nest. It's time for you to find places to build nests of your own." "I'd like to build my nest in the greatest place in the world," cried Livingstone. "Mother, where is that?" "Well," replied his mother, "I have heard that China is very nice." "That's it," announced Livingstone, kissing his mother goodbye. "I will go to find China." After a while, Livingstone came to the biggest building he had ever seen. "It's already divided into nest places," said Livingstone. "That's incredible. This must be China." "There's lots of room," murmured Livingstone. He sat down to plan his nest. A loud clicking noise came from next door. Livingstone saw a beetle turning somersaults. "Excuse me," said Livingstone, "but do you do that often?" "All the time," replied the beetle. "I'm a click beetle." Suddenly an angry voice yelled, "Stay over on your own side." "Stay over on your own side yourself," yelled a second voice. "I don't know why I live with you. You never stop complaining." "Excuse me," said Livingstone, "but do they do that often?" "All the time," replied the beetle. "Cockroaches are so argumentative." "I had no idea China would be so noisy," cried Livingstone. "China?" laughed the beetle. "This isn't China. Why don't you try that way?" Livingstone scampered in the direction the beetle had pointed. He found himself in front of a tall white shape rising majestically into the air. Up one of its slopes ran a rope ladder. "That's fantastic," said Livingstone. "This must be China." We've read this book in class before, first grade, and this is always so funny to us because clearly to us we know that this is a sneaker and it looks huge and gigantic and something that he doesn't know because Livingstone's just a mouse that's never been out to explore the world before or seen these things before. So the rope ladder is actually just the laces going up the sneaker. He ran up the rope ladder and down in the dark interior. "It's nice and quiet," murmured Livingstone. He sat down to plan his nest. A nasty, musty human smell hit Livingstone's nose. "Ugh," he gasped. "I had no idea China would smell this way." "China?" chittered a camel cricket. "This isn't China. Why don't you try that way?" Livingstone ran on, gulping in air to get rid of the nasty smell. He skittered all to a halt before a steep slope made out of pieces of thin woven wood. From the top of the slope, Livingstone could see peculiar objects scattered about a cloth. "That's wonderful," said Livingstone. "This must be China." I think we're starting to notice a pattern in the book here with Livingstone is that everything that looks wonderful to him and grand and the best place ever must be China. But of course we find out as we go this is kind of just a pattern, and Livingstone finds out as he goes what the things actually are. With a leap he landed on the cloth. "It's quiet and there's no bad smell," murmured Livingstone. He sat down to plan his nest. Livingstone noticed a bottle with a big drop of red liquid dripping from its open neck. He took a big mouthful. "Yow!" he howled. "I had no idea food would be so hot in China." "China?" barked a raccoon on his way to the trash cans. "This isn't China. Why don't you try that way?" Livingstone plodded off, his tongue burning. Soon he came to a square room with an open gate at the entrance. In the middle of the room, a piece of cheese lay on top of a slope. "That's neat," said Livingstone. "It's quiet, there's no bad smell, and I'm sure that's mouse food. This must be China." He sat down to plan his nest. I think we're all kind of hoping and wondering, is Livingstone going to be okay? That does not look like a good thing to see for a mouse. Livingstone's mouth began to water at the thought of the cheese. "I'll eat a tiny piece," he thought. "Run!" someone squealed so loudly the cheese began to wobble. "Eek!" screeched Livingstone as the gate clanked down, trapping the end of his tail. "Dear, dear, dear," fussed the voice. "That was a silly thing to do." 2 large rats heaved at the bottom of the gate. "You're lucky," said one of the rats, holding up his tail. "Look what happened to mine." "I had no idea living in China would hurt so much," cried Livingstone. "China?" laughed the other rat. "This isn't China. Why don't you try that way?" they said together. Livingstone scurried across the damp grass, shuddering to think what might have happened to his tail. Eventually he came to a tall wooden post. Sitting on top of the post was the perfect little house for a mouse. "That's amazing," said Livingstone. "I love the pointed roof and the big picture windows. This must be China." "It's quiet," murmured Livingstone. "There's no bad smell, no food to sting my tongue, and no mean gate to hurt me." He sat down to plan his nest. With a loud pop, light flooded the little house, blinding Livingstone. Livingstone wiped tears from his eyes. "I had no idea nights would be so bright in China," he sighed to Luna Moth. "China," gulped the moth shyly. "This isn't China. Why don't you try that way?" Poor Livingstone. He had had a headache from too much noise, he felt sick from the bad smell, his tongue smarted, his tail throbbed, and his eyes were stinging. And he still hadn't found China. Wearily, he set off again. Then he saw it. It lay on its side in a shaft of moonlight, glistening blues and whites. It had a bridge to enter by and a large inner room, with a secret passage leading out on one side. "Oh," gasped Livingstone, hardly daring to breathe. "That is the greatest." A bat glided over Livingstone's head. "Excuse me," called Livingstone. "Could you tell me what this great place is?" "Oh, that?" sniffed the bat. "You don't want to bother with that. That's just some old china." "Some old china? But I've been looking everywhere for China," said Livingstone. "This is where I want to build my nest and live happily ever after." And that's exactly what he did. And of course, that was china, like the type of glass, a china teapot that he finally found. We're so happy for Livingstone Mouse, and it just goes to show that keep going even if things don't go your way, and something great will come your way. That is Livingstone Mouse. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see you guys again. Bye, first grade.